This week on Full Circle Florida, Trump's troops in the streets. I sit down for a clear-eyed conversation with our legal expert, Jeremy RosenTHAL. Is this the new normal in Trump's world? Can we even agree anymore on what crime really is and how bad it is versus the spin from TV talking politicians? Welcome in, everyone, here to Full Circle Florida. President Donald Trump's troops are marching coast to coast in America from Chicago to D.C. And joining me today, legal expert Jeremy RosenTHAL on the hard line in the law. And the question here, is this the makings of a police state or tough love for America's mean streets? Man, a lot going on these days. You're the legal expert. What does the law say when it comes to the president having the authority to mobilize troops to send to cities and states that so far have expressed that they don't want them? Is there any limit there?
There are three circumstances where the President of the United States can nationalize a state's militia. One is if there's an invasion, an imminent invasion. One is if there is some type of active rebellion. And the third is if he is unable or there is an inability to secure federal facilities. The third one is what is being debated at this point, and the judge in Oregon determined that the president doesn't really have a colorable case, doesn't really have an arguable case that there is an inability to protect federal property, that there's civilian federal law enforcement, that there's enough ICE agents to secure the existing threat on the ground.
Okay, so where could this situation potentially go next, considering, ongoing lawsuits, legal challenges? Usually these things seem to be rising all the way up to the Supreme Court. That takes time. And of course, there is a political element to all of this.
Right. You would obviously think that in Oregon, that in Illinois, that it's good politics to oppose Donald Trump, which I think is why you're seeing the governors of those states do that. In this situation, well, what could happen next? So if a federal judge turns over control of the National Guard troops back to Gavin Newsom away from Donald Trump, you could have a situation where military commanders are getting conflicting orders, and then they are essentially deciding who to follow. Probably that doesn't happen, but the Trump administration has made it clear that they don't like losing. And they already tried one end around where the federal judge in Oregon enjoined them, prevented them from using the Oregon National Guard, so he went and used the California National Guard instead. And the federal judge said they didn't like that end around, so what she did was she enjoined any state from doing that, from sending their militia. Who knows what Donald Trump does next? Maybe he tries to deploy the Marine Corps or some other federal military entity to try to secure the ICE facility or to try to enact or do whatever he's trying to do.
Well, I know this is a separate situation, but with ICE, recently in Chicago, and this is developing as we speak, you've had the mayor there and the governor saying they think the ICE agents broke the law when they arrested someone for just simply questioning the ICE agents as they were deporting, someone or arresting someone, and they're essentially threatening that or intimating that they would be willing to have their police forces arrest ICE agents. So this is a whole separate thing, but it just shows you the conflict that's happening here. How do you see this playing out when it comes to deploying troops to different cities? At what point does this become a police state situation and it becomes a real, constitutional crisis?
In America, we really cherish and value the civilian control and civilian-run law enforcement and not having military troops on the ground. And this goes back not only to the founding of the country and to giving Congress the ability to enact and fund state militias. You've got the 10th Amendment that also guarantees state sovereignty. You've also got statutes like Posse Comitatus, which essentially prohibit law enforcement or the military from enacting and just being basic law enforcement. So you're looking at a lot of tradition, a lot of history, a lot of American values that we hold dear in not having militaries that are running just everyday police work. At what point does it become a police state? who knows? Obviously, I think a lot of people politically on the left fear that we become normalized and comfortable with military troops on the street. And I think that that's something that nobody wants to see. What we can't agree on is what's actually happening on the ground, which is unfortunate. Hopefully the judge gets to see and decide for herself in the Oregon case what the actual threat is. And if it's not there, then to do the proper thing based on that, which would be to potentially reject the militarization or the nationalization of the state militia in that regard. But again, when you have these dueling narratives, when you have all these competing factors saying no, that there's really terrible riots that are out there in America, we have a hard time agreeing on facts, and I don't even know that we can agree on the price of eggs anymore.
Well, yeah, I hear that, and you know, this call for law and order has been around a long time. It's sort of reflective of the 1960s and early 70s. Richard Nixon sort of used it as his campaign slogan to propel him to victory in '68. How do arguments, or do they, from these sides play into the legal debate? I mean, on the one hand, the Republican view, or at least the Trump administration's view, is that a crackdown is necessary because of rising crime, like muggings, shopliftings, the smash and grabs we see on social media, concerns about people being randomly sucker punched on the street. We've seen those videos. But then on the other hand, you have critics who are saying, look, do we trust a power-hungry president with the power and the commander-in-chief, you know, it's under his control to then intersect U.S. cities with the military? And it goes back to what you were saying. We all would have to agree on what the reality on the ground is. How bad is the crime? And it feels like we can't agree on that.
No, I don't think we can. And not only that, if the administration wants to claim that this is 1968, they can mobilize troops and they can nationalize state militias to do that. They have to prove it, though. They have to go to a court of law, and the courts have said we will give the president of the United States deference so long as the president has a colorable claim that they have an inability to protect federal property. And if they are able to protect federal property short of using the militia, then that's the law. And hopefully the military commanders respect that. Hopefully our military is not in a position to get conflicting orders. But if the administration wants to claim that this is 1968, they have to prove it.
All right, Jeremy RosenTHAL, as always, thank you for your insight. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Paul.